Hi, this is Kylie with Fem and Flow. I hope everyone's having a great day. I saw a few different people post on social media recently about the concept of light and dark. They said that both light and dark are important and that we need both. I think that concept can be very misinterpreted and can really misguide people. On the big picture perspective, I disagree with that concept and I want to talk about why. Like every topic we discuss on here, there is a ton of nuance. And when people skip the nuance, we can really be led astray. And spoiler alert, I am 100% a child of the light. But okay, let's get to the concept. First off, it's important to understand some of the bigger picture. And I've talked about this bigger picture on previous episodes, specifically the episode titled The Universe is a Spiral. On that episode, I talk about how a universe created from a white hole is in an upward spiral of energy, while a universe created from a black hole is in a downward spiral of energy. In a white hole universe, there is no duality and no polarity. Everything is bliss. This is what we archetypally call heaven. Everything in the universe is energy vibrating at different frequencies. And in a white hole universe, everything is vibrating in a harmonic resonance of 8 of the solfeggio frequencies, which could be called the voice of God. White hole universes are what our souls and our consciousnesses are used to, and this is our natural state. This is aligned with God's divine order. God's divine order goes along with the 9 dimensions we can currently access energetically. On Earth, under this false matrix, we are cut off from fully resonating with the higher dimensional energies. That means we're cut off from fully resonating with God's divine order. I mentioned in a previous episode that Satanism is not worshiping a red man with horns and a cape. Satanism is taking what is aligned with God's divine order and what is natural and then inverting it. This inversion cuts off the access of fully resonating with the higher dimensional energies. Society on Earth right now is very inverted and much aligned with Satanism, and people don't even realize it. If you haven't listened to my other episodes about the 9 different dimensions we can currently access energetically, you may be confused about what I mean exactly when I say God's divine order. The different dimensions essentially are energetic filters that put pure light, pure source, or God energy into action. God is not a man or a woman calling the shots, parenting us, or giving us forgiveness. This concept of God was created on earth to control and manipulate people. Guilt and fear are the basis of manipulation. God is not a separate consciousness in the way you and me have separate consciousnesses and separate perspectives. God is the highest vibrational energy there is. God is pure light. God is pure source energy that makes up all that is natural, righteous, and organic. All of our consciousnesses make up God's consciousness. We are fractals of God. First, there was pure God or source energy, and then came consciousness. Back to this idea of God's divine order and dimensions that put this energy into action. Think in terms of what is naturally beautiful to us. Think in terms of mathematical relationships like the golden ratio. This aligns with God's divine order. It is the true order of creation. It's the order of nature. It's the mathematics we find in nature. Like I said, white hole universes are in an upward spiral. This upward spiral keeps going and going in constant creation. White hole universes are what is aligned with God's divine order and what is natural. In contrast, black hole universes are in a downward spiral of energy. Black hole universes have duality and polarity. Black hole universes are not naturally occurring and not aligned with God's divine order. The physical dimensions are dimensions 1 through 3, but all of the energy is in a spiral. It's not like separate layers. You get a black hole universe by hijacking a white hole universe and cutting the physical dimensions off from higher dimensional energies, including 8th dimensional God or source energy. And the 4th dimension is the first non-physical realm that canopies over the 3rd dimensional physical experience. So it's the 4th dimension that is being hijacked. And hijacking the 4th dimension can greatly manipulate how energy filters down into the physical through the 4th dimension. Understanding the 4th dimension is hugely important and will help you so much in this current experience. The 4th dimension is the realm of archetypes, myths, and the collective mind. I talk more in depth on other episodes and I get more into it later on. But so when this higher dimensional energy gets cut off from just freely filtering into the physical, this causes the energy spiral to shift polarity from being in an upward spiral to then collapsing into a downward spiral. It's all about the vibration and resonance of the energy. Universes created from a white hole that are in an upward spiral of energy are fully sustained by pure God or source energy. That is because all fully resonates vibrationally with that pure high vibrational energy. That is because all, including the physical, fully resonates vibrationally with that pure high vibrational God energy. Everything's just flowing and spiraling in God's divine order. Universes created from a black hole are in a downward spiral and are constantly collapsing in. This black hole is only sustained by low vibrational frequencies that are created from humanity. As humanity raises their vibration and stops generating low-level frequencies, there's less and less low vibrational energy to keep sustaining the downward spiral of energy. This means collapse. You may have heard people say a negative timeline has just collapsed, and this is the energetics behind that statement. There was not enough low vibrational energy generated to keep that negative timeline going. The high frequency energy overpowered the low frequency energy, so that low negative timeline collapsed. If you are sensitive to energy, you may have been feeling a lot recently because there has been so much going on energetically in 2025. A lot of timeline merges and shifts have been happening. Lower timelines will merge into higher timelines, and then the high frequency energy will overpower essentially and collapse that lower timeline. This will keep happening until we reach critical mass, and then the polarity will shift to then Earth or Mother Gaia's universe being created from a white hole. You may have heard people talk about how we are in a spiritual war. It's a frequency war. It's not like we are going and physically fighting in the astral realm or the 4th dimension while we sleep. It's all frequency, and the stuff about timelines I just said really puts some insight into that. I talk more about this polarity shift on other episodes, specifically the episodes Savior Complex and The Universe is a Spiral. So once the polarity shifts back and this universe is then created from a white hole, the black hole universe will fully collapse and cease to exist. There's no dualistic white hole and black hole universe situation that we can go between depending if we have learned certain lessons or not. There is only the white hole universe in an upward spiral. There's no duality or no polarity. So now this may be clear from what I've said, but black hole universes are white hole universes inverted. White hole universes are aligned with God's divine order. Black hole universes are not aligned with God's divine order. I said Satanism is taking what is aligned with God's divine order and inverting it. Therefore, black hole universes align with Satanism. And we're currently in a black hole universe. So now let's get into the concept at hand, which is the message that both light and dark are important. I said on the big picture I disagree with this. To think this way is short-sighted because it is only the way of the false matrix that we currently have on Earth right now and the black hole universe. It does not align with ultimate truth. It aligns with the universe aligned with Satanism. This is where the nuance lies. So here's the thing. You can use this concept to escape and see past the false matrix, but this could also trap you. This is why the episode is called The Duality Trap of Duality. I'll talk about how we can use it to escape, but just know this only applies to this inverted reality. This is not how it works when we are fully aligned with pure God energy. We want to be sure not to confuse how this inversion works to how God's divine order works. The belief that both light and dark are important is a duality trap and only true in an inverted reality. So this is only true under Satanism, essentially. Duality is light versus dark, the opposite sides of a spectrum, and polarity is the gradient between. This whole concept of duality and polarity only exists in black hole universes. On one side of the spectrum, you have pain and suffering, and on the other side, you have growth. So it is true that in this inverted experience, the more you experience pain and suffering, the more you can have empathy and compassion. It's like the lower in frequency you drop, the more higher vibrations open up for you to potentially access. I say potentially because just because you dive deep into pain doesn't mean you will actually do the work to then rise up and access. And I get into this later, but we can essentially grow and go in an upward spiral where we do access those high vibrational energies we opened up to, or we can get stuck in a loop. And loops are traps. This also aligns with how, in this inverted experience, we may have a quote unquote dark night of the soul where we hit a really low point and then we have a spiritual awakening. Many people talk about how their spiritual awakening came after or with a dark night of the soul. It's like you dove deep, and when you dove into those low level frequencies, that high level frequencies opened up for you. But even after we have a spiritual awakening, that is only the beginning because there are many spiritual traps, unfortunately. One of the spiritual traps is getting stuck at this concept of light versus dark and duality and thinking that is how everything works. That is not how everything works. That is just how this inverted experience that was hijacked works. In my previous episodes, I talk about how this Earth experience was hijacked, and this is really important to touch on again. All of our natural states are fully aligned and fully resonating with pure God or source energy. Everything is energy vibrating at different frequencies. The 9 dimensions we can currently access energetically all align with the solfeggio frequencies. I won't go into that here, but go listen to the episode titled The Universe is a Spiral. It's all about frequency and specific frequencies. This is what is naturally occurring. Anything outside of this is an inversion of what is natural. When we are aligned with God's divine order, we are fully sustained and have no needs. It is bliss and what we archetypally call heaven, and we are fully sustained by God energy. And by fully sustained, I mean we have absolutely no needs. When the black hole was created and the inversion happened, it was accidental. There was no malice intent. This is why you may hear people say dark doesn't equal bad, or it goes along with it at least. A group of beings wanted to experiment and see what would happen if they disconnected from source energy. It was essentially an experiment gone wrong. They wanted to disconnect and see if they could find their way back to source. On Earth, we have this archetypal idea of an angel, but essentially, an angel is a higher dimensional being, or a being that fully resonates with all higher dimensional energies, including eighth dimensional God energy. You could say angels live in white hole universes. So when the beings disconnected from source energy, they no longer were connected to higher dimensional energies. This is where the term fallen angel comes from. They fell from source. They fell from being in resonance with source. Because these beings were no longer connected to source and no longer fully sustained, they had to get energy elsewhere. They had to harvest energy from beings who were connected to source. Humans are innately connected to source, whether they realize it or not. Source energy or God energy is pure light. Since these fallen beings are not connected to the light, they are dark. Dark is the absence of light. So these dark beings are parasitic beings because they can only sustain themselves energetically by siphoning energy from humans. They can also only siphon energy that is in frequency ranges they can resonate with, or that they are vibrational matches with. The dark beings established a false matrix in the fourth dimension of Earth. This cut humanity off from higher dimensional energy that fully sustained them and connected them to God. Connection to God energy connects us to intuition, truth, and our inner knowing. So cutting humanity off from higher dimensional energies allowed the dark beings to manipulate and program humanity in order to control them. This causes humans to incarnate into Earth and then forget their eternal lives. It causes them to be stuck in the material world and believe only what they can see. The dark programmed humanity with a lot of fear and other things that cause low vibration emotions. The dark rely on low vibration energy to sustain themselves. Emotions are energy. All of the major pillars of our society are set up to control, manipulate, and program society. This is all an inversion of truth. Some of these pillars are the education system, finance and banking, Hollywood and entertainment, news and mainstream media, Western medicine, religion, etc. These are systems that keep us trapped and under control of the dark. These dark parasitic beings are disconnected from God or source energy, and they're clearly not thinking straight. They do come up with clever narratives to trap people. The dark will share ideas that have a lot of resonating truth in them, but then subtly mix in lies to lead people astray. The message that both light and dark are important without getting into the nuance and ultimate big picture is an example of this. And this is like Stockholm Syndrome. Stockholm Syndrome is a psychological phenomenon where hostages or abuse victims develop a bond with their captors or abusers, often feeling sympathy or positive feelings towards them. This can be a survival mechanism. I saw someone talk about the concept of how light and dark are both important and said Lucifer is important because he leads us towards the light by taking us into the dark. This does go along with what I said. When you dive deep into pain and suffering, you have potential to go more into the light, or these higher vibrations open up to you. But remember, this is only the case in this inverted experience. Doesn't this seem like Stockholm Syndrome? Let's not forget the bigger truth of how this black hole universe is not natural to us. These dark beings essentially hold people captive for a while so they can sustain themselves. It's like someone trapped us, but then they give us a rule book on how the trap works. And then we're like, oh my gosh, thank you, captor, for giving us this rule book. I don't know. Doesn't that seem like Stockholm Syndrome? Like, how about you never trapped us at all? We really need to understand this bigger picture. In white hole universes, we do not need pain and suffering to grow. There is no pain and suffering in white hole universes, but there is still growth. Another narrative shared to lead people astray is that Earth is a advanced soul school and souls come here to endure pain and suffering so they can grow. We do not need pain and suffering to grow. We have eternity. And this leads me to something else. The people who I saw share these messages about light and dark both being important said they got these messages in meditation. Also, one of the people who shared messages about how Earth is an advanced soul school got these messages from doing regression therapy on people. So, I've talked on and on in other episodes about how meditation is so great. So, you might ask, well, okay, you say it's great, but why are some people getting the wrong messages in meditation? One reason is some could be unknowingly connecting to fourth dimensional beings, aka the dark parasitic beings that I talk about. These beings will share truths and half truths to gain trust, but then mix in lies to subtly lead you astray. And I'll talk more about this in a moment. Another reason could be as a human with blinders on, we get a short message or a piece of the puzzle in meditation, and then we extrapolate on that, and we might misconstrue it on accident because we are understanding it with a limited perspective. You can't take anything at face value, really, because even a short message needs to be unpacked and expanded on by asking for higher guidance. Everything has a lot of nuance. For example, I might get a download or a message, but that's just the beginning. There's a lot to unpack and it requires tapping into higher guidance. Sometimes what I first write down is a tiny piece and I never would have connected it all without further higher guidance. It might start as an idea, but it ends up being way more than that. It ends up not just being that idea that came into my head. Even the way we learn, grow, and expand can be viewed in a spiral. We will learn concepts and eventually spiral back around at a higher viewpoint and understand that same lesson or concept from a new higher perspective and a higher understanding. So maybe at first you learn that light and dark are both important, but then you learn more and you spiral back around and then you see it from a higher level and you say, oh, that is only the case on Earth, but that is technically part of the false matrix. And that's not the ultimate truth. So that could be a reason why it's the spiral of understanding and the spiral of growth. I just want to talk about all of this because I see a lot of incorrect information and half truths on social media regarding spirituality. I really don't think you can fit all needed information in a 10-minute TikTok video because each topic has so much nuance and it requires connecting different concepts in order to fully grasp and understand how literally it's all connected. I'm not saying short TikTok videos aren't super useful though. They're great at giving an idea that you then explore, but don't automatically believe everything you hear. It's very important for all of us to learn how to connect to higher guidance in God or source energy on our own. We shouldn't just blindly believe others. We could be so extremely misguided that way. I truly believe seek and you shall find. I don't think humans sharing messages on social media or other avenues are purposefully trying to misguide others. Truly, I think everyone is trying their best. We just need to understand how to connect to God within and seek for ourselves. Then we can hear what others say, and that will give us an idea or a starting point. But then we take it and run it past our own internal audit. Never blindly believe just because a concept sounds nice. And when I say run it by our internal audit, I don't mean use our own opinions or our own ideas. I truly mean learn how to connect to God within ourselves, connect to higher guidance, and that serves as the audit. We don't want to use our own opinion and our own limited experiences to just make opinions on this, if that makes sense. I also think it's so cool when people seek spiritually and put themselves out there. It's just important to understand how to protect ourselves, know the spiritual traps, etc. Early on in my spiritual awakening, I was reading a lot of different books and taking in a lot of information. I really liked and believed the concept about Earth being an advanced soul school. I mean, it did sound super exhausting learning all of these lessons and graduating to different levels. But hey, it sounded better and resonated more than the idea that we get one lifetime as a test and then we go to heaven or hell for eternity. I had no true higher guidance on this. It was just something I learned in a book. Now I see this as false light or a false message and spiritual trap. It gets us to buy into the idea of the false matrix and support it without understanding the bigger picture of it all and the ultimate truth. But it's okay, I thought that at one point because at least I was questioning things and seeking. I also was just seeking on my own, had no real clue about it. So I was certainly not sharing my thoughts on social media. But I do think some people might be bolder than me and feel like they want to share their ideas when they are just in infancy. And by infancy, I mean, their ideas as soon as it comes into their head and before they have connected the dots or received true higher guidance about it. That's another reason we should be careful about what we believe. Some people might just be sharing any ideas that came into their head and tying their own opinion with it. I've learned to truly connect within and not just believe what others told me or what I read in a book. I started being able to know for myself by connecting to higher guidance and inner knowing. And I would definitely not say the stuff I talk about here are ideas I came up with or my opinions. Often, I'm shocked and inspired and delighted by the info I receive. And at the end, I'll talk about some basic framework you can follow so you can start tapping into your own higher guidance. For now, I'm going to transition back and talk about the fourth dimensional beings that sometimes unknowingly lead people astray. I previously said when someone receives incorrect guidance or messages, they may be connecting to a fourth dimensional parasitic being or fourth dimensional false matrix programming. Just remember there is indeed dark here. The dark wants to lead us astray so they can keep us under their control. The fourth dimension was hijacked by the dark beings. The fourth dimension is an unseen, non physical realm. It's the realm of archetypes, myths, and the collective mind. Some call it the astral realm. It sets up the programming or the matrix of this physical experience. It sets the vibe, essentially, or sets up the fairy tale land. This is where the dark beings have set up camp when it comes to Earth. And if you change the programming or that non physical veil that covers the physical experience, you can manipulate and control the beings living in that experience, and they won't even realize it. And remember, not all fourth dimensions or matrices are like this. In totally free experiences in white holes, the fourth dimension is fun and sets the vibe of the physical experience. Not all matrices are bad. We only think it's bad because it's been secretly manipulating and controlling humanity. It's this unseen programming that is truly influencing our lives in ways many don't even realize. But back to the hijacked fourth dimension of Earth. We can unknowingly be led astray by fourth dimensional dark parasitic beings if we aren't aware. It's really important to understand darkness does exist, know how to protect ourselves, and know how to cleanse our energy and keep up with good energy hygiene. The dark can lead people astray by saying truthful things, but subtly adding in lies or inversions. They also paint some of these inversions and narratives some may think are beautiful. They are crafty and darkness is extremely subtle. On one of the videos that I mentioned that was talking about how light and dark are both important, they were saying a lot of things that were actually complete inversions. And even though it's an inversion, a lot of people in the comments were saying that is so beautiful and that resonates. This darkness is subtle, it's not in your face. That's why we have to be really careful and understand all of the nuances. And remember, Satanism is not worshiping a man in red wearing a cape with horns. It's taking what is natural and aligned with God's divine order and inverting it. The dark will wrap these inversions up in pretty bows and emotionally manipulate society to believe in these inversions. And actually, not even just believe in them, but fight for them. So, all of this that I talked about, and when I talked about how some of these people were getting some of this misguided information via meditation, this is all why when I meditate, I always begin with a prayer. I always say, God, please shine your bright light of protection down around me. I call in God's protection. Prayer really does work. I also anchor in God or source energy and align all of my chakras. And then I imagine a cord grounding into Mother Gaia. Mother Gaia transmutes low vibrational energy into neutral energy. Prayer and this practice of aligning the chakras and grounding into Mother Gaia will help protect you from fourth dimensional beings. If you ask for help or guidance, always add a little bit about if it's aligned with your highest and your best outcome. I've mentioned this before, but I also don't recommend getting energy work done by others who may not do these protection practices. Don't just blindly go in and have energy work done. I would see if they believe in darkness or not, because if they don't believe in it, they aren't protecting you against it. But truly, I've talked about this before too. We are in a place that once we align our chakras and get our energy flowing properly, we can actually do this quantum healing work on ourselves. We don't need to go to outside practitioners. Also, I recommend praying to God, not the universe. God is pure light, pure source energy. And as we can see, there's a huge difference between a universe created from a white hole versus a black hole. The current universe that Earth is in is currently created from a black hole, and that's an inversion. And an inversion equates to Satanism. When we pray to the universe under these current conditions, we do not know who we are praying to. And I think that is one of the nuances between New Age spirituality and true spirituality. We need to understand there's a big difference. Okay, so now let's talk about how to use the concept of duality to get out of the false matrix versus how to get trapped. I said how in this inverted experience, when we dive into pain or suffering, we could potentially rise in vibration even more because it could give us empathy, deeper understanding, and compassion. Pain and suffering can make or break someone. Some people are able to take that pain and grow from it, but some let the trauma totally derail them. Oftentimes, it won't even totally derail someone, but it gets them stuck in that low vibration, stagnant energy, and then they get stuck in a loop. And a loop is a trap. Trauma, pain, and triggers are essentially low vibration energy that is stuck and stagnant. Usually, in ideal state, energy is flowing constantly in a spiral, an upward spiral to be specific. Growth is a spiral, like I talked about earlier. When there is trauma, pain, and triggers that haven't been handled and released, there is stagnant energy, and instead of energy spiraling up, it is just looping. There's no growth, and it's just the same again and again. This is a loop of energy or a cycle. If someone doesn't deal with their own pain and trauma, they can unknowingly pass issues down to their kids. This is the concept of a generational curse. It's just trauma that affects behavior getting passed down generations until someone deals with the trauma and breaks the cycle. It's passing down all of those limited beliefs. If someone has trauma and it affects their own viewpoint, and then they're teaching their kids from that viewpoint, that is passing this on. And sometimes you may have had a bad traumatic experience and you haven't got over that or grown from it. And then you're trying to protect your kids from that. But actually, in your protection, you are passing along that issue to them. And that's just passing down to generation until someone gets over it. So when we hear generational curse, it might sound big and scary, but it could come in much subtler ways of just you taking your own pain and trauma and trying to protect your kids against that. That is passing it on to them. And this may seem random, but this is also tied to ghosts. We think of ghosts haunting an area due to undealt with trauma or something very painful happened there. I've talked about holy trinities before. We have a soul, consciousness, and a body. A ghost is just energy stuck in a cycle or a loop. There's no soul or consciousness tied to it, but some of their energetic blueprint is stuck in an energetic loop due to trauma and pain or stagnant energy. Getting stuck in these loops and not facing our pain, trauma, and triggers head on will keep us trapped in the false matrix. I'm not saying that will turn us into ghosts, but that was just a interesting example that was related. Now let's talk about how we can use this concept of duality and light versus dark to raise our consciousness and escape the false matrix. We need to learn, grow, and truly alchemize our pain. We need to be in a spiral of energy where we grow, learn more, see from a higher perspective. If we have pain and trauma, we need to unpack it, understand it, and truly release it. I've talked about this on other episodes. Truly let it go and don't make it part of your story. When I say alchemize the pain, I mean use that experience as a way to understand others deeper, so if someone comes at you with low vibe emotions, you can respond with empathy and compassion. Know your triggers are not someone else's responsibility. Triggers are an indication of an area that needs unpacked and healed. If someone triggers us and we lash out, that is literally us just projecting our own issues onto someone else. It's a complete trap and a complete loop to blame your triggers on others. We should never, ever have victim mentality. Victim mentality is a loop or a trap. To use the light versus dark concept to escape the false matrix, we must have radical self-examination. We must be honest with ourselves. I don't mean have anxiety and beat yourself up. Heal your nervous system so you can truly be an observer, and then be an observer of yourself. Be kind to yourself, but be real. Take responsibility for your part of things. Never be a victim. Learn from the situation and let it go. This is an upward spiral of growth. If someone does something mean or rude to you and you literally did nothing to deserve it, just know it had nothing to do with you. In this kind of situation, that is the other person just projecting their own internal issues. In this case, have empathy and compassion, but set boundaries and then move on. Holding grudges only harms you. Holding low vibration energy and emotions in only harms you. Low vibration emotions held in the body can manifest as physical pain, disease, etc. To release pain and trauma, you can journal about it to understand it and let it out. Do shadow work, ground in nature, do somatic release, take walks in nature, meditate, etc. We need to mentally deal with it and let it go, but then we also need to release it from our physical body as well. Now I'll talk about the basic framework to follow to properly connect to higher guidance. And all of these things align with a separate episode. So if you want more detail, there's probably another episode where we deep dive into that. The first thing, heal your nervous system. Like I said, there's a whole nother episode on this. The second thing, understand there is darkness and we want to be working and aligned with the light. 3, understand there is a difference between true spirituality and New Age spirituality. It is not all the same. You can listen to my episode on spiritual traps if you want more info on this. 4, understand what fourth dimensional parasitic beings are, understand the fourth dimension, and understand fourth dimensional influences. There's a separate episode on this as well. 5, know that prayer truly works. Pray for God's protective white light to shine down around you and call upon God's protection. 6, cleanse and align your chakras and ground into Mother Gaia so she can assist you and transmute low vibration energy into neutral energy. 7, connect to higher guidance, aka your angels or your guides. Your angels and your guides fully resonate with source energy, God energy, or eighth dimensional energy. You can visualize them as purple light shining down around you. 8, spend time in solitude. Spend time in nature and meditate. And like I said, you can accidentally connect with meditation to fourth dimensional beings, but do all of the other things I mentioned that will cause you to properly connect to higher guidance. And also, I've talked about this before, but don't be afraid if you accidentally connect to a fourth dimensional being. They're literally just parasitic beings. They have no power. They have to manipulate and control humanity to harvest energy from them. So just understand that and just know you can do stuff to protect yourself. If you accidentally connect to a fourth dimensional being, don't let it completely derail you and scare you. That is a spiritual trap, and I talk about that too on the episode about spiritual traps. Okay, that is all for today. If you like this episode, please subscribe and give me a 5-star review. Please send to any friends or loved ones who you think might be interested. I love you all and have a great week.